Welcome to councillors, members of the public and staff present in person, joining us online and watching via YouTube this evening. I declare this meeting of Bayside Council open at 7:01 p.m. Councillors and those present in the chamber are reminded to conduct themselves in a polite and professional manner, keep communication factual and use appropriate language and tone. Council meetings are live streamed and recorded via YouTube. Please therefore treat everyone with dignity, respect and do not use any defamatory or derogatory remarks. Defamation laws do apply to addresses in the public forum. Members of the public that have registered to speak in person will be called forward during the public forum. Please proceed to the lectern. Members of the public that have registered to address by audio-visual link are asked to keep your microphone muted and video off until invited to speak. Please note speakers will not be able to present material as part of their speaking time or share their screen. Councillors are reminded of obligations to conduct yourselves in a professional and respectful manner under the obligations of Council's Code of Meeting Practice in the interest of good governance and to adhere to meeting etiquette. All present are reminded that the YouTube video recording is an official record of Council and will be accessible via YouTube in accordance with the Code of Meeting Practice. No other recordings are permitted and all present should ensure there are no video recordings, audio recordings or photographs taken. In case of emergency, please follow the instructions of the Council staff, exit via the Town Hall foyer and proceed to the evacuation point. With that being said, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Bidjigal clan, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and work, and acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. On behalf of Council, I pay my respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I now invite Reverend Jim Ferguson from Bexley Baptist Church to open our meeting in prayer.
Let's pray, shall we? Our gracious and our loving Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for being present with us this evening, Lord, and thanking you too for your word which tells us that our help comes from you. Lord, as many prepare to celebrate the Christmas season and the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ, we want to give you thanks for your presence amongst them, even those going through difficult times, and we pray that there will be joy and peace even in their circumstances. Lord, this evening in this extraordinary meeting of the Bayside Council, we ask for your wisdom and your guidance as matters are deliberated and debated. We pray for respect, our Lord, from all sides to be shown to others who may have a different view. But loving Father, we pray that in it all you would guide and direct those who need to make decisions about these matters. We pray that the matters will, our Lord, be deliberated quietly and considerately, and that, Lord, through it all, you will be glorified and respect will be shown by everyone. Father, once again we pray that each one, as they finish this meeting and go out into the coming weeks, should you tarry, that, Lord, there will be a great opportunity for friends and family to gather and to celebrate together the Christmas season. We commend this all to you now in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Thank
you. Thank you, Reverend. Just to begin, our final meeting of the council year, I think it's a good opportunity to reflect on the work we've done over the last 12 months. In particular, thank council staff for all the work they do every day, not just in the council chamber, but every single day out on the ground in our community. I think we've had a very big year at Bayside Council. We've had some really big projects completed and getting up and running. The Botany Aquatic Centre is obviously a huge investment for our community. We've had parks completed, new parks and playgrounds completed, Burralee Park, Taylor Street Reserve at Cogra, just a couple of examples that stand out this year. I don't think I'll forget Taylor Street Reserve. I apologise to Councillors Awada and Barlow who were waiting for me at the opening when I told them I couldn't show up because my wife was heavily in labour. We've had a huge rollout of new bins across the council area. That's been an enormous amount of work that's required cross-functional delivery across the entire staff. And it's been, I think, really impressive. And we've also seen an incredible delivery of our Bayside Alive events program. Starting at the beginning of the year, we've had Lunar New Year, our Woori Rise event at Ramsgate Beach, Ramadan, Jazz on the Mall, Diwali, our Spring Fair, Project Planet, our Food and Wine Festival, and all of our Christmas spectacular events and carols that are happening right now. All of that doesn't happen without the hard work of our council staff, so I'd like to thank all of them for their commitment, and also all of the councillors around the room for your work and passion for this community each and every day. With that being said, we have a number of certificates to present at tonight's meeting, starting with our Christmas card competition winners, which is always a highlight of the year. We recently invited residents to submit their designs for our 2025 Bayside Christmas cards. It's always hard to choose winners from all the outstanding entries, but we have a couple of the very worthy recipients here tonight. When I call your name, please come up to receive your certificate, a pack of your winning design, and a photo with the councillors. And I invite any councillors who want to join in, please come down and join our fabulous winners. First up is Ailey Wu from Cogra, if you'd like to come forward. And our next winner this evening is Gabriella Back from Brighton Lysand. If you can please come forward, and your family is of course welcome as well.
We're just waiting to get the right certificate. It's just... We'll have to swap them over.
Unfortunately, our other winners from St Bernard's Catholic Primary School in Botany are apologies tonight, but they'll get their certificates and cards sent to them. So please give a round of applause for Aisling O'Reilly, Avril Gallego Valdez, and Hazel Milne. All 5 of the designs will be used for Bayside's Christmas cards this year. Next up, we have our photography competition winners for 2025. We're very pleased to announce the fantastic photos that have been selected. This annual competition invites our residents to capture the diversity, character and beauty of our local area across a range of categories, including open, natural environment, waterways, transport and active. This year's areas again showcase the talent of our local photographers and the many ways our community connects with Bayside's parks, beaches, waterways and neighbourhoods. When I call your name, please come forward to receive your certificate and a photo with councillors, and of course invite any interested councillors to come and join in. First up, our winner in the open category is John Zhang, for Brighton Lysand's In the Dream. Do you want to read out the rest of it? Mm-hmm. Please come forward. Congratulations.
Our next winner is Liam Veljanovsky. Ryan Pesraza.
Ryan?
Here it comes. Radivoje Milicic. Jared Underwood. Michelle Sparks.
Michelle?
She may not be here, so we'll make sure that she gets her certificate. And Edward Adhikari.
Congratulations once again to all our fantastic award winners tonight, and continue to be very impressed by our brilliant local photographers. I think Edward's a serial winner, so he's one to watch out for next year. Next up, we have apologies, leave of absence and attended by an audio-visual link. We have no apologies, leave of absence or audio-visual link requests. Does any councillor wish to make any disclosure of interest? Councillor Curry? Councillor Morrissey? No. Councillor Bezic? No. Councillor Boudelay? No. Councillor Strong? Councillor Kasim? No. Councillor Brederhoft?
Yes, I declare less than significant non-pecuniary interest on the basis that I know some of the authors of the submissions today and some of the speakers with regards to Willis Street and of professional capacity. Some of them are also members of the party of which I am a member of. And that's, yeah.
Councillor Brederhoft, Councillor Saravinovsky? No. Councillor Naji? No. Councillor Dusku? No. Councillor Awada?
Item 10.1, CPE 25.038, declare a significant non-pecuniary interest in that item on the basis that family friends have property in the precinct identified in the report. I will not participate in the consideration or voting on this item, and I will leave the chamber when they are discussed. Other declaration, item 11.1 and 11.2, a pecuniary interest in those items on the basis that a close relative is a private certifier for the development subject to the interim heritage order. I will not participate in the consideration or voting on these items, and I will leave the chamber when they are discussed. I just wanted to make mention for the public record, I wish to clarify that at the previous meeting held on the 26th of November 2025, I was not aware that the private certifier involved in this matter was my close relative. The officer reports, and we got many attachments, distributed did not include information about the certifier or the CDC. The debate centred on Section 10.7 Planning Certificate and the Interim Heritage Order. I therefore formed my view and voted based solely on the information before me at the time. Thank you.
Councillor Wyder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On Councillor Wyder's declaration, I respect what he declared. Just through you, Mr Mayor, to the appropriate governance, why all councillors weren't notified of who is the private certifier or who the applicant is in the first notice of motion. I hear that due to the fact we were dealing with an interim heritage order and not the actual DA, but I just need to find that out and put it on record. Thank you.
General Manager.
Councillors, you may be aware that the private certifier is not required to inform council that they are the certifier until after they have certified, until after they have actually undertaken that particular activity. In this instance, that certification hadn't occurred. There was no approval in place, so the certifier wasn't required to tell council until after that had occurred. This certifier, when they notified the neighbours, also voluntarily notified council. That was a notification that simply sat within the Department of Planning's, our Department of Planning's records. It's for record keeping only. It's not something that would be brought to the attention of senior staff or councillors necessarily. We don't see a list of who certifies all of the CDCs that come to council. So there was nothing on the radar at that point. It came to our attention after the meeting, as I've explained to councillors when I sent around my message to you.
General Manager. Councillor Barlow.
I'm actually not sure what, because I know one of the people that is one of the in opposition to one item at 11.1, but I also serve on a committee with her, so I'll declare a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest, and I've never had to do that in the 30 years I've been on council, just because I happen to know someone.
Councillor Barlow. Councillor Poulos.
11.1 and 11.2, a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest, as over 11 years ago I attended the wedding of the lawyer who's currently representing the applicant. Since this occasion I have not had any further interactions with him, and he has not contacted me about this matter that is before council, so I will be remaining in the chamber.
Councillor Poulos. Councillor Douglas.
I would also like to declare a less than significant non-pecuniary conflict of interest for an item that was tabled at the 22nd of October council meeting, CES 25.033, it being about community grants, and I realised I know some of the people that were recipients of the community grants in a professional capacity as part of the Sam Susie Veggie Patch, but I was not part of the judging of those grants, but those minutes were passed at that meeting. And secondly, I would like to declare...
It's not on tonight's agenda.
It's not on tonight's agenda, but I did say I would mention it on the public record when in conferring with governance about it.
We'll include in the minutes.
I've sent them also a written version of that.
I'd say that, the minutes of the last council meeting will come up to the next ordinary meeting of council, so you should correct the record then.
Okay. And additionally, I would like to declare a less than significant non-pecuniary interest for 11.1 and 11.2 on the basis that I have a professional relationship with some of the public who have made public submissions through my associations with the Cogra Bay Progress Association, the St George Historical Trust and Peaceful Bayside. And I will stay in the chamber for voting.
Councillor Douglas.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, just on a point of order, Mr Mayor, and I hope you'd hear me out. I'll be as quickly as possible. Just want to clarify, under the Bayside Code of Meeting Practice, clause 15.1.1, I would like to draw the attention of a potential breach of clause 3.38 of the Code of the Meeting Practice. 3.38 says councillors must declare and manage conflicts appropriately. Councillor Brederhoft and Councillor Douglas accordingly are friends/close associates of Ms Dina Workman, which being some evidence on Facebook, friends, political group, close associates supporting each other. Also under Councillor Code of Conduct 5.10 and 5.11 that explains significant non-pecuniary interest and advises councillors to leave the room, Mr Mayor. So the reason I do understand that it's up to the councillor to declare how they want to declare, and I respect that. I just want to raise it as a concern and put it on record as I expect or believe that this will be investigated. Thank you. So I'm just putting it on the record. Thank you.
Noted. Councillors, nothing further. There are no mayoral minutes tonight. Councillor Kassim, apologies.
I mean, given all the other declarations made tonight, I should also say that, of course, I'm also a member of the Leadenhall committee on which Tina Workman and other members of St George Historical Society are involved. So if that requires a declaration of a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest, then I make it as well.
It's a matter for you, Councillor.
Through the chair, I just have a question because previously in the previous term of council, I raised a matter around concern for a conflict of interest for a councillor on an issue, and I was told at that time that it was inappropriate for councillors to make that mention at a meeting. That was to be done post the meeting. Through the chair, I'd just like to get clarification from the General Manager on that procedure.
Councillors can draw the attention of the chairperson to alleged breach of this code. I think people were making potentially opinion-based statements at that time, but we've heard the point. That's as far as it goes. Councillors can respond to that if they like, but effectively we can just move on with the meeting now, unless anybody has anything further to say. Thank you. There are no mayoral minutes this evening. I'll now proceed to deal with the remainder of the business on the paper by exception. The public forum items, the items where a division is required for planning matters, and the notice of motion and where councillors have a pecuniary and a significant interest will be dealt with individually. Councillors, are there any other items you wish to pull out and deal with individually? Councillor Curry? Councillor Morrissey? No. Councillor Bezic? No. Councillor Boulay? No. Councillor Strong?
CWA A25057, the committee report about the fields, the new proposed fields. I did email some proposed amendments to the action item on that.
Councillor Strong, Councillor Kassim, Councillor Brederhoft, Councillor Saravinovsky, Councillor Naji.
Yeah, if I could pull out CPE 25.038.
That has a public forum speaker, Councillor Naji.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Councillor Discu, Councillor Awada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Poulos, Councillor Douglas, myself, nothing. Members of the public who have invited to speak at the meeting are now invited to address the meeting. Speakers are reminded that if matters have been raised by a previous speaker, there's no need to raise the matter during your address. Please only speak on additional matters. Given there are a large number of speakers registered on our items tonight, speakers will have 2 minutes to address the council. A warning bell will sound when only 1 minute of speaking time remains. Speakers who are joining the meeting via MS Teams are reminded to have your video off and microphone muted until invited to speak. If you registered a written submission prior to the meeting, please note that these have been provided to the councillors. Speakers are also reminded to keep communication factual, polite and professional and to use appropriate language and tone. Do not use any defamatory or derogatory remarks. Defamation laws do apply to addressing in the public forum. We have 17 speakers tonight dealing with items 10.1 CPE 25.038, proposed Bridal Sands and Bay Street Master Plan, item 11.1 rescission motion, notice of motion revoking interim heritage order 116 Villiers Street, Rockdale, and item 11.2 notice of motion revoking interim heritage order 116 Villiers Street, Rockdale. Beginning with item CPE 25.038, proposed Brighton Lysander Bay Street Master Plan. We have Mr. Gibran Khoury speaking against the officer's recommendation. Mr. Khoury? Apologies, just wait a moment for Councillor Awada to leave the chamber.
Good to go.
Thank you, Mr. Khoury.
So my concerns today relate specifically to the block bound by Bay, George, Pitt and Cameron Streets in Rockdale, opposite Happy Alley. This is the area that I live in and I'm speaking about. So there's two key inputs into the project plan that this relates to. So one of them being the 2021 planning proposal, the other being the transit-oriented development SEP controls that apply under the state government. So in 2021, we had sensitively designed controls proposed by council for this block. It would result in 4-storey unit blocks that residents could actually live next door to. They didn't have to necessarily sell their homes, and there was enough setback from their homes to comfortably live next door. That scale worked alongside existing houses, creating a livable, moderate density environment. The TODSEP that applies today, in contrast, delivers outcomes that residents cannot reasonably live alongside, and it already determines the minimum direction for development here under the master plan. The master plan in its current project plan form cannot propose anything lower than what the TOD, the transit-oriented development SEP, allows, which allows up to 9 stories currently. This creates a predetermined high-density outcome. Once one 9-storey building goes up, that sets a precedent in the area. I would suggest that if the 2021 4-storey unit block scale combined with flexibility that I've suggested offers a livable alternative, the TOD-SEP does not. So I suggest council has 2 options. If council wants a high-rise development in this block, then the master plan that currently applies to this pocket needs to be fast-tracked because the outcome has already been set by the TOD-SEP and the timeline in the current project plan is too slow. If council wants a sensitive community-shaped outcome, then the TOD-SEP must be removed. That would allow for the master plan to proceed at its intended pace of 2 years and allow the area to be shaped appropriately. Other councils have successfully negotiated with the state government for the TOD-SEP to be removed. This includes Inner West and Ku-ring-gai, and they've developed master plans for upzoning in their area in a way that has been informed by the community. Ku-ring-gai's master plan was so successful it won a planning award last week. This shows that council has a proven pathway to act and deliver better outcomes here. In summary, either fast-track the master plan for this block to deliver a high-rise development outcome that goes beyond the TOD-SEP, or advocate for the removal of the TOD-SEP to allow for a sensible, sensitive, flexible and livable master plan to proceed at the normal timeline.
Please wind up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Brederhoft. Sorry, before Councillor Naji, you speak, do you want to?
Oh, okay.
Microphone's turned on. Oh, okay, just through the chair, I wondered if the Director of City Futures could respond to the public inquiry, please.
Mr. Barber.
Through you, Chair. For council to
You can
propose,
take a seat, Mr. Khoury.
for council to propose something different to what's in the TOD provisions that were referred to, we would need to do some planning work, and that's what the master plan could potentially do. It is correct that generally the Department of Planning have said that they wouldn't accept anything less than what the TOD provisions allow, which in this area is up to around 6 stories. But for us to, the other councils referred to had also done a significant master planning exercise which they were able to put forward as an alternative. We haven't done that work yet, and that's what this project is about.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Councillor Douglas, further?
Well, it sounds to me like in terms of a process that we need to go through this process, but we could take into consideration Mr. Khoury's suggestions when we come back to review this, which will be in May. Is that a fair understanding of... okay, thank you.
Councillor Poulos.
If I may, can I request that we put a 0.5 down if there's no objection, that the project timeline include a councillor briefing with the external consultants during the early engagement phase for the Brighton Les Sands and the Bay Street components? Everyone's okay with that? Yep.
So, subject to the code of meeting, subject to the code of conduct.
Call it what you will, but I do think it's important that the councillors have got input in some significant changes to our
agreed.
precinct. So can we? Yep. Thank you.
Councillor Naji. Yep.
Look, it's a long shot since, I'm glad that this is coming to council, and I remember that in the past we've had so many consultants, but they were between Bay Street and Bestic Street, and I respect that, and it's great to have it back, and now including not only Bay Street and Bestic Street, the Grand Parade, but all the way in Bay Street. It's a long shot. There's been a lot of strong representation from residents on the Little Grand Parade, if you recall, Mr. Mayor, and also on the corner of Bestic all the way through. Part of it is General Homes, but it's a small island all the way to the service station which comes out on the Grand Parade. And I think if we can include that in the concept for the consultants to look at, they might come back and say, no, it's not a good idea, or yes, it is, and it's not going to cost us any more money doing that since we're doing the concept. So if it's okay with the mover and the seconder, this way I don't have to do an amendment to include number 7. Put my glasses on. Number 6. Otherwise, I'll move an amendment if it can be included. I think it makes common sense. Since 2012, when Miss Erica Roca was here, she thought it was a great idea. Then Mr. Stephen Kerr thought it was a great idea. Mr. Michael McKay thought it was a great idea. And I think Mr. Barber had some meetings with some residents, and he thinks it's not a bad idea. So I'm just wondering if it's not too much trouble through you to Mr. Barber, if we could include this little parcel and see what the consultants will come back to us.
Councillors.
I am worried about that. I think that could unleash a can of worms from community perspective. I've already had concerns around rumours of council wanting to develop that area into high-rise hotels. I didn't think that that had any founding of basis, given that it's basically sand dune with water table underneath and single double-storey home residential dwellings. I think if that's something that I think I'd like to hear what the Director of City Futures has to say on that matter, given that it's difficult conditions and it opens up this whole parcel on a trajectory north that's quite dissimilar to the terrain around there.
So can I just pause for a moment, because I live very close in proximity to the Little Grand Parade. I'm not sure where you see this extending down Bestic Street, but this could effectively...
No, not all of, sorry Mr Mayor, not all of Bestic Street. I call Bestic because it's when you...
Do you mean Bestic on the east side of the...
That's right.
Okay, no problem.
You see these ugly buildings. Yeah. So I think it's always been on the council idea, great idea, going back to 2012. And I think just let's see what the...
Sorry, that's fine. I just wanted to double check that.
Just if it's not accepted, then I'll do an amendment to include the officer's recommendation plus number 5 plus my recommendation. And I'll speak to it.
Sorry, councillors, further discussion. It sounds like that's not accepted as an amendment, sorry, as an addition to the motion. Further discussion, councillors. So can I just ask, I understand that's a non-contiguous area with the planning area. Can we get some commentary from the Director of City Futures on that?
Yes, Chair, that's correct. The area that we've, part of this report is really to confirm the scope, and that's a decision for councillors to make tonight. We've generally just chosen an area which is kind of roughly a kind of a square rectangular shape around Bay Street. This area goes further to the north. It does have a different character. It's really a matter for councillors to decide whether they want the scope to go that far or just contain it more to the town centre. It's something that we can, of course, do. We can include that in the scope for the project, but it's a matter of whether councillors want to see change in that area or not, ultimately.
So, Councillor Nagy, do you want to put it up as an amendment?
Yes.
Any?
All the recommendations, including this.
Yeah, and add an additional point to do effectively the area bounded by the Grand Parade, etc., to the east, where the Little Grand Parade is. Councillors, any further discussion? No, I think we need some wording around the amendment.
It's an addition, isn't it?
Add point 6. That the study, I think it's words to the effect that the study area includes the area bounded by the Grand Parade north of. Let me pull up a map. So it's the Grand Parade north of Bruce Street, bounded by General Holmes Drive and Bestick Street. Is that correct?
And only the eastern side.
That's the eastern side, yeah.
Just the small parcel.
Yeah, so that's the area surrounded by General Holmes Drive, the Grand Parade north of Selwood Street and Bestick Street. Councillors, any speakers to the amendment? Councillor, do we have a seconder for the amendment, sorry?
Yeah. Do we have a second?
Councillor Bidley. Councillor Nagy.
Look, Mr Mayor, when we talk about planning, we need to have really great planning. And if we said, oh, it's a can of worm, we're opening a can of worm, I could say the same thing about Bay Street. We could open a can of worm over there, or even on the Grand Parade. I mean, Councillor Poulos is so right in her number 5 to say, let's talk to the consultants. Let them brief us, Mr Mayor, and then we'll go from there. And if they say it's not a great idea, that's fine. I'll be happy with that. I'll live with that. Now, the proposed of a comprehensive master plan for Brighton Les Sands and the Bay Street corridor linking station to the foreshore. Great idea. It delivers on Council's June 2025 direction for integrated planning, complete streets, upgrades and future housing capacity. Remember the housing capacity. The precinct is strategically important due to Todd potential, future metro options and its major regional foreshore role. Key challenges include heavy traffic on the Grand Parade, narrow footpaths, overshadowing limits and airport height restrictions. We understand that. The master plan will provide a long-term vision for growth, public domain, improvements, transport connectivity and economic uplift. Work streams include internal Bay Street planning and external consultants-led studies for Brighton Les Sands. Early gateway studies, economic feasibility and transport capacity will determine viable heights, densities and movement options. Community engagements will shape priorities, including incorporating changes to Bestick Street into the Little Grand Parade for stronger links and better placemaking. Key milestones, feasibility reporting in May 2026, draft exhibition in May 2027, and final outcome in August 2027. The project budget is $455,000 funded through local area funds as the planning proposal reserve requiring a formal tender for consultants. Mr Mayor, I'm not asking for major developments or anything. I'm asking, let's look at this little parcel included in the Grand Parade and Bay Street and let the consultants tell us. Let the consultants advise us. And again, Councillor Poulos, I commend her for putting that number 5 to give the councillors, especially the ward councillors and other councillors, the opportunity to engage with the consultants and see what they're up to and what they're going to do. And I hope this time the consultants will carry through and do what needs to be done. Thank you.
Councillor Nagy, further discussion? Councillors? Councillor Douglas?
I mean, I am concerned because of the amendment, because of what happened at the committee meeting, which respectfully not all the councillors were at, and there was a lot of community pushback about densification. And we had a long debate around the fact that the original intent of the motion for the town centre master plan was about pedestrianisation and making a people-centred, complete streets approach to Brighton renewal, and that the report that's in here now is very much so focused on densification, and there's been a whole section missed out on the complete streets approach, which was in the original report back. That's why we separated out the officer recommendations, and I just really strongly feel that adding this in, which is basically doing like an island thrusting out into residential areas to potentially be high-rise, is going to really get a lot of pushback by the community of Ward 5, which is the community I represent. So therefore, I'm not in support of this.
Thank you, councillors. Any further discussion? Look, I'd just probably comment briefly that I think I don't oppose the idea of investigating this, but I think I would oppose it going up tonight as a decision. If the amendment doesn't get up, I would support this being referred through so that we can go through and notify the community that's being considered, because I think it is non-contiguous and it's outside of the study area that we've gone out to with business papers that the community are able to see. So that's sort of my view. Right of reply, Councillor Nagy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I know it's not my ward, I know it's Fifth Ward, but a lot of residents are expecting something. And when we're talking about viability, when on the Little Grand Parade, I don't expect really high-rise over there, because if you're a local or you've been there, other councillors, you'll see that on the Little Grand Parade, each house have been spent $5-6 million. So it's maybe unviable to consolidate all these things. But it's always been on the agenda since 2012, and Mr Barber knows about it. He's the latest director. That when you're driving out of the tunnel and you come, you'll see, Hashem, it's now been renovated, it looks great. You've got the park, it's beautiful. You know that, Mr Mayor, you live there. You stop on the traffic light and you look up, and just that corner, Mr Mayor, that corner is so ugly. This is the gateway to Bayside Council. I'm not saying go and do 12 stories, 14 stories. Let the consultant look at it. And if it's smart planning, we should do that. That's all. I'm not asking for anything else. So it's in the interest of those residents that live around there, and they have been in contact with me, and I'm just trying to represent them. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Nagy. Planning matter, so the amendment dealt with by way of division. Councillor Curry. So the amendment is to add an additional investigation area, being the area bounded by General Holmes Drive, the Little Grand Parade, north of Selwood Street and Bestick Street.
So what are we voting for?
We're voting for the amendment, so whether or not to add the additional area to the consultation.
I just want to make a point. We haven't been provided with that with respect. We just haven't been provided with that detail. So I just can't support the amendment, because I think we discussed a particular site.
Take it out and send it to a committee separately.
Yeah. Do a motion.
Do a motion. Yeah, respectfully, Councillor, I support conceptually what you're saying.
there's a lot of papers and work and diagrams and maps and things that have been circulated and on the public record. And respectfully, this is not on the public record. So I just refer to what the Mayor referred to as that we can't sort of add it on. I'm not supportive of adding it on the fly because we've got a whole, whether it's positive or negative, we don't know. We need advice from a consultant. So I would support a separate notice of motion at another time to go to committee, and it can be, because of the timelines in this, it can certainly be added. I would suggest through Mr. Barber, we can just sort of add this in maybe in February next year at the first meeting. But on the fly, I just don't think there's a lack of transparency. What we're looking at now, which is a plan to do a plan. All the areas are mapped. People have different views, and I'm supportive of that. But we can't just add a couple of hundred houses just off the fly. I just don't think that's right for the community.
So just very briefly, Councillor Nagy, we are into
Thank you,
voting.
Councillor Morrissey. And if Mr. Barber gives us the assurance that we can do that, I'm more than happy to withdraw the amendment and so on. We're able to do that, Mr. Barber?
I think, just to be clear, I think you'd want a separate amendment asking this to be looked at as a separate, to effectively come back at the previous stage, which is this motion coming to council for that area. So I take that the amendment's withdrawn, but perhaps a separate point for consideration would be the area described by Councillor Nagy, which I'm sure the planning staff are aware of and I'm familiar with. But as Councillor Morrissey said, I'm sure several councillors would want more information about exactly what that looks like to come back to a future committee meeting as a separate item. So are you happy to include that as point 6? Sorry. So effectively have that investigation area that Councillor Nagy has stated come back as a separate item at the next committee meeting. Yeah. And maybe down the track it can be included as one investigation area, but I'd suspect if a decision is made, then maybe the council planning staff might like to provide professional advice that we should make the areas contiguous if that's being considered, just as a point. All right, councillors, so we have the original motion before us with point 5 and the new point 6 added, which I think we understand and can be minuted later. The item is by way of division. Councillor Curry, Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Bezic, Councillor Boudeleau, Councillor Strong, Councillor Kassim, Councillor Brederhoft, Councillor Saravinovsky, Councillor Nagy, Councillor Dusku, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Poulos, Councillor Douglas, and myself for declare it carried unanimously. Just if we can have your forbearance for a moment, we're joined by Miss Michelle Sparks, the final winner of our Bayside photography competition. If you can come forward to receive your award.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. We now move to rescission motion, notice of motion revoking interim heritage order 116 Villiers Street, Rockdale. First up, speaking against the officer's recommendation is Miss Elise Trusis, interested resident. And as described earlier, each speaker will have 2 minutes and time limits will be strictly enforced given the volume of speakers. Ms. Trusis.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. The decision before you tonight is not routine, it is historic. Your vote on the IHO order of 116 Villiers Street will show whether the council truly values heritage, transparency and democratic participation, or whether those principles can be set aside for convenience. IHOs exist for one reason: to prevent irreversible mistakes. They simply create time for experts to assess significance and time for the community to be heard. If you revoke the IHO prematurely, that time disappears forever. And once the building is gone, there is no second chance. The community has been clear, this place matters. The character of Villas Street matters. Revoking the IHO now would silence those voices and prioritise the urgency of an owner over the community's rights to a fair, transparent process. From my own experience, living in a conservation just around the corner in Banksia, heritage controls do not stop progress. They guide it respectfully and strengthen neighbourhood identity. These protections make our suburbs distinctive, enhance our pride, and even protect our long-term value. Sydney's history reminds us that communities often have to fight to save what matters, from Nancy Rand, Jack Mundy, Preserving the Rocks, and Nancy Hillier, here in our own area, who championed accountable, community-driven planning. Their legacies show that protecting heritage is not an obstruction, it is a responsibility. We also have local proof.
Please wind up, Ms. Trusas.
Sorry?
You have 15 seconds. Please
Okay.
wind up.
All right, thank you. If the IHO is revoked, the loss is permanent. Let's trust the planning system, and councillors, I respectfully urge you, do not revoke the IHO. Allow the full assessment to be completed and give...
Thank you, Ms. Trusas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, for the speaking for the officer's recommendation, Mr. Daniel Justin.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Justin and I'm here to speak on behalf of my mother, Robin Justin, and my 3 brothers. Our family has owned and lived at 116 Villiers Street, Rockdale for over 50 years. My parents separated in '83 and my mother raised 4 boys. Like any other household with 4 boys and 1 parent, we were a battling family. In recent years, Mum's health has declined and she moved into a nursing home so she can get the full-time care that she needs. We have been reluctant to sell the home, but as her condition deteriorated, it was our harsh reality. Further to that, the nursing home that Mum now calls home needs to be paid for. So unfortunately, the time has come. My brothers also knew our home was in very poor condition due to my mother living alone for so many years. We knew whoever bought our home would almost certainly build a beautiful home to enjoy. This is our house. It has been our house for over 50 years, and not so much as a letter, an email or phone call to inform us of council's intervention. What struck me at the meeting 2 weeks ago was the suggestion by certain council members that our home will somehow belong to the community. For the last 30 years, as I've raised my own family in Engadine, and all of my 3 brothers have moved outside of Sydney, I've travelled to Rockdale to help Mum as much as I can. For over 50 years, no one cared. We put the house on the market, nobody cared.
Please wind up, Mr. Justin.
Yep. When we sold the house, no one cared.
We have a seconder from Councillor Barlow.
When Dr. Amin applied to council to build his family's dream house, all of a sudden, everyone cared. My mother's nursing home is now chasing us for an initial payment of $520,000. That's money we don't have. If the sale of our home is delayed or jeopardised, it would be a very serious and unforeseen consequences for our family. This is due to the fact that my mother is means tested now because she's in a nursing home. So we are forced to sell the house. She does not have any savings, nor receives a pension due to the value of the house. How can council admit 2 weeks ago that they're at fault and pass that crippling financial burden onto a totally innocent young family who've done everything right and seemingly have no accountability whatsoever for their own mistakes? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Justin. Ms. Samantha Trevorrow speaking against the officer's recommendation via Teams. Do we have Ms. Trevorrow? Samantha? No. We have a number of speakers who have only registered to speak on the notice of motion, which will not be considered. Sorry, sir.
Sorry to go.
Do you want to take a seat?
Oh, sorry.
I haven't called anyone yet. There are a number of speakers who registered to speak only to the notice of motion and not the actual rescission motion, and who will not be heard unless the rescission motion gets up. So I would invite them tonight, if they wish to speak to the rescission motion instead. I'll give anyone that opportunity, and I'll just read out the people. Associate Professor Ali Amin, Mr Anthony Boscovitz, Mr Reg Hindman, Mr Christopher Salitas, Mr Hassan Al-Zain, Ms Riyam Mansouri and Mr Iman Syed. So perhaps you can indicate if you would like to, I'll read your names out again one by one, and if you'd like to indicate if you would like to speak to the first item as well. So Associate Professor Ali Amin, yes. Mr Anthony Boscovitz.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr Reg Hindman.
I don't know what's going on. I can't hear very
Would you like to speak to the motion?
well.
Yes or no? All right, thank you. Mr Christopher Salitas.
Yes, I would, ma'am.
Mr Hassan Al-Zain.
Yes, I would.
Ms Riyam Mansouri.
Yes.
And Mr Iman Syed.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Associate Professor Ali Amin. She's registered to speak to the first one. I'm just alternating. Thank you.
Mayor and councillors, my name is Associate Professor Ali Amin. Since our last meeting, two significant events have occurred in my life. First, my family welcomed our second child, Haydar, a name in Arabic which symbolises bravery and strength. I hope those qualities guide the decisions made in this chamber tonight. Second, I was promoted to Associate Professor at the University of Sydney, making me one of the youngest academics in my field to hold this title at a Group of 8 university. This is an achievement I should be celebrating with my family. Yet I stand before you unable to do so because of the burden, the uncertainty and the distress caused by this interim heritage order. This have overshadowed what should be a very joyful time in my life. Little Haydar is with his mother behind me, and Laith cannot be here, but he's watching this meeting live. He is watching his father fight for our future, for our home, and for the simple expectation that the decisions made in this chamber are grounded in truth, fairness, transparency, and proper process. At the last meeting, while sitting in the gallery, it became painfully clear that several of the comments made by the councillors were not based on fact, or evidence. They were based on misunderstandings, misstatements, and at times outright misinformation. These were not small or harmless errors. They shaped the debate. They influenced the tone of the discussion and ultimately contributed to a vote that has caused profound emotional and financial damage to my family and to the Justin family. This is not about blaming individuals. This is about acknowledging a serious systemic failure. Council's processes failed. They failed my family. They failed the Justin family. And they failed the standard of accuracy, fairness and integrity that every resident deserves from those elected to represent them. Since that meeting, I have received countless phone calls.
Please wind up, Mr Justin.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, if with your indulgence, the purchaser and the seller.
I'll allow one additional minute.
Just
but
allow
you need to,
all
Mr.
the
Mayor,
others. I'm more than happy.
No, one additional minute.
Mr Mayor, respectfully, you declined to meet with me. I'm going to stand here and speak because this affects me more than anyone else in this room.
Sorry, you have 1 minute, Mr Amin.
Since that meeting, I've received countless phone calls from members of the community expressing their disappointment, frustration and disillusionment with the way this matter has been handled. They are ordinary residents who watched the same meeting, who read the same reports and who cannot understand how such a serious decision can be made on the basis of unclear, inaccurate or unverified information. Their confidence has been shaken in the council, and that should concern every person in front of me. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of those who have supported me through this unjust and unfair process. One of the most telling examples was the confusion about whether this property was heritage listed. Two councillors confidently stated that this house was listed in the 1990s. Another councillor challenged that claim. The General Manager then clarified only that the right word would not be listed. That response was insufficient. The correct answer, and one that should have been provided unequivocally on the night, is this. There is no evidence whatsoever that 116 Villiers Street has ever been heritage listed. And if someone truly believed that it had been listed in the past, that would be even stronger evidence for it not for listing it now, because it clearly would have been removed. The facts are clear. The 1991 Rockdale Heritage Study identifies 117 properties. 92 of them, including mine, are not heritage listed. My home was not missed, not overlooked, not ambiguously referenced. It was assessed and not recommended for heritage listing. Yet the debate proceeded as though its status was uncertain, implied, or somehow buried in an outdated report. This misconception went uncorrected at the crucial moment and led directly to an outcome that has inflicted real-world harm. The same councillors have now doubled down on the claim on Facebook, in which, in a post to the community, they have said that the old Rockdale Council nominated this property for protection. In fact, the opposite is true. By assessing the property, it was deemed to not meet the threshold for protection and retention. This is a position that up until I lodged an application to develop the site, Rockdale Council and the Amalgamated Bayside Council also held. Good governance requires accuracy. It requires evidence. It requires a process residents can trust. What happened here that evening was none of those. I am an academic, and I would never determine a conclusion based on inaccuracy. I've reviewed the meeting recording carefully and wish to justify several instances.
You've been speaking for 5 minutes. You can either wind up or we'll suspend the meeting. Everyone is given an opportunity to speak. Who wants to speak?
I want to raise one thing before I close it off.
Okay, you can have 30 more seconds, but if you don't take a seat, we're suspending the meeting.
No problem. At 1 hour and 33 minutes in the recording, I stated that to the knowledge of the owners, the property had not been heritage listed at a time in the past 50 years. At that moment, Councillor Brederhoff leaned over and whispered to Councillor Cassim, who then stated as a matter of fact that this property had been heritage listed. When I spoke later to Councillor Cassim, she confirmed that this information had been provided to her before the meeting by another councillor. In other words, misinformation was already circulating prior to the meeting and was then repeated publicly during the debate. That is deeply concerning. Councillors should enter the chamber informed by evidence, not by unverified claims.
Please take a seat. Miss Anne Field.
Mr Mayor, councillors, excuse my sore throat. Perhaps I might address some of my comments to Mr Kovac. I'm addressing a matter which has a rightful place in the study by Trevor Cass, historian, and Meredith Walker, heritage advisor in the early 1990s. Mr Kovacs, I was an elected official here in 1991, and I have the documentation of everything very well recorded. And this property was identified. Cassim Walker identified the majority, but not all of the buildings in Rockdale Council, which had a link or role in the development of the area. And 116 was listed. And one of my Moorfield horse trainers, Mr Halpin, lived down the road at number 49. The goalposts have moved far too far in this council, and there is a desperate need for them to be realigned. I have lived through many heritage debates and fought many heritage advocacy campaigns, which are all documented. I know heritage advisors, I know excellent ones, and I know ones who are less than excellent. And I'm going to quote from Justice Talmott in a landmark decision in the Land and Environment Court in July 1998 and reported in the Australian Financial Review, July the 13th.
You have 15 seconds.
The
Ms.
Justice
Field.
said in handing down a rescission in relation to a Lara Council matter, the Council was doing no more than carrying out a statutory duty to properly manage, develop, protect, restore, enhance and conserve
thank you,
the
Ms.
environment of the area for which he's responsible. I'll quickly finish.
No, please take a seat.
Solicitor,
No, sorry, I'm not. It's 2 minutes. Please take a seat. Thank you.
I can't add any more.
No.
Right.
Mr. Christopher Salidas.
Thank you, Mayor. Start?
Thank you.
Yep, my name is Christopher. I'm a dear friend of Dr. Ali Amin. We've been friends since university, so over 20 years now. As you know, he's a doctor, a professor. His achievements, I don't have enough time to explain, but one thing's for sure, he's a believer in the law. In fact, some of the things he's researched are in the codes. So he's a true man of belief in the law and the rules. And one thing's very clear in this situation, the 10.7 does not have this house heritage listed. The man has put down his entire life savings into this property, only for a group of people to potentially devalue that property and make him lose up to $1 million, ladies and gentlemen. $1 million. Young man, father of 2 young children, doing what wrong? Nothing. Followed the rules. If he's wrong, so is the valuer. The valuer that gave the bank the right to give him the mortgage. What about the other 20 bidders? Are they idiots too? What are we talking about here? The man has suffered. I've spent nights with him. You want to talk about mental health issues? You want to talk about suicidal thoughts? Imagine going from talking about taking your children to what school, to even going to school at all. This is an outrage. This is an outrage. Heritage for what? My grandfather's older than his house. This is an outrage. Even if it's correct, don't make an example of him. Change the rules. Pick up your shorts, write the rules correctly. So that people like him who are purchasing a house for their future do so in a manner that they can handle. He's not a developer. He's a professor. A young man has the potential to improve his family's life in an Aussie dream that we've all been sold. Only to be taken away from him from a technicality?
You have 10 seconds, Mr. Salidas.
I just ask you, please, I implore you, we talk about transparency. Where's the transparency in the 10.7? Please, I beg you guys.
Please
talk
take a
about
seat.
mental health. Don't do this to an individual. Change it from now on. Don't do it to this person.
Mr. Tom Kell. I think joining us via Teams. Is he online? No. Mr. Anthony Boscovitz, who's the representative of Professor Amin.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors, thank you very much and thank you for the time tonight at this time of year. Your duty to service is appreciated by all the members of the community here. The misrepresentations that have occurred before I wish to speak about the conveyancing regulations are quite abundant to me tonight. Ms Wallace tonight talked about the EPNA regulations and the fact that the council weren't required to be notified of who the certifier was. That's completely wrong. Section 134(3) makes clear that a certifier must notify the council and the residents 14 days prior to issue of a CDC. 134(4)(a) says that the certifier must provide their name, address and phone number. The council knew. It's a clear apprehension that Ms Wallace and other councillors are trying to represent matters such as what Dr Amin and Mr Salidas said earlier about the 1991 Heritage Report. With respect to the 10.7 certificate, the conveyancing regulations and the Conveyancing Act 1919 well preceded the Heritage Act 1977, as well as the EPNA Act, which is essentially your Bible besides the Local Government Act 1993, by 50 years. Conveyancing in New South Wales has followed a regime where there are mandatory requirements for the provision of documents, many of which you would know about, but one of which is the 10.7. When Councillor Sarankovsky is looking at a property in Ward 3, or Councillor Kassim is looking to purchase another property in an adjoining ward, they are getting a conveyancer or solicitor to look at a 10.7 to understand what they are buying. And what Dr. Amin was buying, pursuant to the 10.7 issued by this council, was a property without heritage and not in a heritage conservation area. Why has that changed?
You have
I'm
10
not quite
seconds,
sure.
Mr Boscovitz.
I would call on the council to reconsider their position on this matter. I would call on the council to not cause damage to both the Justins and to Dr. Amin and his family.
Thank you.
The damages
Please take a
associated.
seat, Mr Boscovitz. Mr Hassan El Zain.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors. Hang on.
Sorry, would it be easier for you to speak sitting down?
That's all right, I'm up now. It's all good. I want to be clear from the start. I've never met Dr. Amin, and I'm here to speak on behalf of members of our community who are deeply concerned about the current situation. I have watched the recording of the previous council meeting, and the facts are clear. A 10.7 certificate dated September 2025 was attached to the sale of contract of the property. The certificate contained no mention of any planning, overlays, restrictions or heritage listings. The buyer relied on this certificate and other publicly available information in good faith to make significant financial commitment. Then on 23rd of October 2025, after decades of inaction, council imposed an interim heritage order on the property. The sudden action has caused enormous stress to both the purchaser and the buyer, the other way around actually, anyway. The heritage order will reduce the property's value at least several $100,000, if not over $1 million. The actions of Bayside Council set a dangerous precedent for all property owners and buyers in our community. If council can issue a clean 10.7 certificate and then just weeks later impose a heritage order, it creates an environment of uncertainty and distrust. People need to be able to rely on advice and information council provides. Given this lack of transparency and the clear contradiction between the information provided and council's subsequent action, I respectfully urge council to do the right thing and revoke the order. Councillors, I trust you will make the right decision and reverse this order in protecting both the fairness of and the confidence of the community in your actions.
Thank you, Mr. El Zain. Ms. Reem Mansouri.
Good evening. My name is Reem and I stand here tonight as Ali's wife and as a mother speaking on behalf of our two little boys. We now understand that some councillors had previously wanted this house to be listed as heritage, but due to system failures, that intention was never recorded or communicated. Those failures were council's, not ours or my husband's. Yet the painful consequences, the stress and the financial burdens of these failures have fallen entirely on him and on our family. Since receiving the interim heritage order, every waking moment of Ali's life is consumed by research, paperwork, and fear about what this decision could mean for our future. We have a 2-year-old son who adores his father, but that little boy has lost the joyful, playful dad he once had. My husband is so stressed he no longer has the mental or emotional capacity to give our son the time and attention he deserves. Our son, while young, senses the stress and he feels the heaviness that has blanketed our home. The night after our last meeting, I gave birth to our second child. Welcoming a new baby should have been a magical time for our family. But instead, the arrival of our son has been overshadowed by fear and uncertainty. Ali has been so overwhelmed and distressed that he hasn't been able to be present for me or the baby. I truly understand the importance of heritage preservation, but I'm asking the council to take responsibility and act on the human impact of this situation. We trusted the system and now suffering because that system failed. I ask councillors to please reconsider your vote and let fairness guide you tonight. Don't let political pressure overshadow the very real human impact of this decision. I ask you to vote with your conscience and to stand for what's right. Choose to protect the people who live in your community, not just the structures that stand within it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mansouri. Mr. Hindman. Mr. Heinemann.
Councillors will be aware that I spoke at the previous council meeting which dealt with this matter, so it is not necessary for me to repeat my submission, other than to re-emphasise that what we are trying to achieve here is protection for important heritage houses which will otherwise be eradicated from the landscape and memory. Structure gone, history gone, quality workmanship gone, decorative features gone, streetscape and aesthetics deteriorated. Again, I say that we must push back against the concept that for any old house, the automatic go-to option is becoming all too often demolition. The options to restore or renovate sympathetically are simply dismissed out of hand. Rather than demolish, why not choose one of the other options, in which case the house could easily last for another 120 years, and it would be the most impressive and valuable house in the street, if not the district. The subject property hillside is a feature of the district which sits on the hill, the high eastern slope of the ridge topped by Forest Road, with views over the bay, along with our Heritage House Museum, Lenham Hall, and my house, Tonbridge. I call this district the Vaucluse of the early days, because like Vaucluse on the heights overlooking Sydney Harbour, it was where wealthy people back then chose to live and where they sent their children to school. For example, at Bexley Ladies College, founded by the Reverend C.T. Forscott in 1895, a few years prior to Hillside.
Please wind up.
And a few years
Please take a seat, Mr. Heinemann.
in my previous submission.
No, Mr. Heinemann, you need to take a seat.
Sorry?
Your time's expired. You need to take a seat. Mr. Iman Syed.
My name is Imam. I'm a local real estate agent. I've been recently engaged to sell Dr. Ali Amin's family home with the intent to buy 116 Villiers Street, Rockdale. Dr. Ali's methodical and careful approach has been highlighted many times tonight. I don't need to repeat it. There's just one point I'd like to make, and please hear me out. Just one point. Australian property we all know and love is underpinned by one thing. That's caveat emptor. Buyer beware. So my question that I can't wrap my head around is, it's beyond bricks, it's beyond walls, it's beyond structure, it's about the humans that live, buy and sell in this beautiful neighbourhood. If it's buyer beware and Dr. Ali, the purchaser, has undertaken every measure, analysed the 10.7 certificate provided by your council, cannot rely on the documents provided by yourselves, then what certainty, safety and credibility can families have purchasing in this council? If it's buyer beware, then how can the buyer and the family, the Justin family, suffer life-altering consequences? How? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Bezic, seconded Councillor Boudeleil. Councillor Bezic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and also thank you for allowing all the speakers to speak on the first motion in the interest of transparency. Now, as you can hear from the speakers, the decision by council to impose the IHOs has caused immense stress on both the purchaser and the seller of the properties. The seller is a lady in a nursing home, and I know what it's like to place an elderly person in a nursing home. My mother-in-law went through this a few years ago. There is a lot of financial pressure to pay, the refundable accommodation deposit, the fees. There's only a certain amount of time they can stay in respite. And now the sale's been delayed, put in abeyance. So they're not sure how they can come up with the money to keep the mother in the nursing home. At the same time, she's lost a pension. Along with, the purchaser who bought the the property with a clear provision that the 10.7 certificate was clear. There was no encumbrance of any heritage on it, and there was ample opportunity in the past to impose a heritage order on the property to investigate it. As the speakers against this motion have said, the heritage value, and that known as heritage. Well, why wasn't it done before? And that point is, it gives us a less confidence in the system when down the track. But also, the biggest issue is the hardship it's caused. There are similar properties like this. It's not like this is the only Federation house in the area. I'll leave it to the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bezic. Further speakers?
Yep.
Councillor Naji.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not ashamed to say that big men sometimes do get emotional and have teary eyes. After hearing Dr. Ali and the other gentleman about a young family, what has happened to them. But please bear in mind, and I'll address my fellow councillors, I want your decision to be not politically motivated, not emotional, but fairness, on morals and on ethical grounds. Please bear in mind, while I speak, I would like every councillor around this chamber is to put themselves in Dr. Ali's shoes. All I want to talk about, not as much as heritage, I'm not a heritage person, just the process. The process, how it all started. And how it all started is a young family man saw a property on the market through the agent. He got excited because he had his dream, his wishes for his family. He does his due diligence. The solicitor, I can't recall the name at the moment, but his solicitor said he did the right thing. He did his due diligence, and they relied on the 10.7. 10.7, Mr. Mayor. And that is what every buyer relies on, because the council's responsibility with that 10.7 is to state whether it's heritage, to state whether it's flooding, to state whether it has state environmental impacts. All of these were not there. So this young family gets excited, goes and puts all his life savings and puts it onto a deposit. Now, this is the critical, and I want councillors to please just understand. While it went on the market, and I'm not going to mention names at this stage, but it's all on records through emails and so on. While it was on the market, it was brought to the attention from someone to a councillor to the director, and the director obviously to the GM, whilst it was on the market. But we failed. And sadly, Mr. Mayor, we failed to act upon beforehand. We should have had that IHO while it was in the market before it went for sale. Now, I'm sure I can't speak on behalf of Dr. Ali, but this is about fairness, transparency, that any buyer who wanted to buy this property would have looked at the 10.7 or looked at, there is a IHO, and it's up to the young family whether they will buy it, whether they don't, or whether another heritage person that would like to buy it, then they would have come to buy it. So it's just about fairness, Mr. Mayor. So bear with me. I know I talk a fair bit, but I am emotional about this.
You've still got a minute and a half, Councillor Naji.
No. Well, you can't do this now. We have been fair to us all year round where you let us speak. And this is a very crucial, where a young family's life is lying in ruins. So, Mr. Mayor and councillors, please let's stop pretending. The interim heritage order placed on 116 Villiers Street wasn't heritage protection. It wasn't good governance, and it wasn't due diligence. It was a botched, politically contaminated, procedurally indefensible ambush, and everyone in this chamber knows it. This council used one of the most powerful tools available, the IHO, without a proper heritage assessment, without transparency, without a single shred of procedural fairness. That is not heritage management, that is government overreach bordering on abuse of power. Like it feels like we are in a communist Russia where government overreaches. Let me spell it out plainly. The heritage basis was weak, untested and rushed. Council imposed an IHO before undertaking a full heritage assessment. Only after slapping a family with financial ruin did council vote to actually go and get a proper report. Who does that?
Time, Councillor Nagy.
What responsible reverses the order?
You need an extension if
Yeah,
you like.
is someone... I'm not going to be long if I don't get interrupted. What responsible authority reverses the order of evidence and consequences? We don't arrest someone first and investigate later, but apparently in Bayside, we heritage list first and justify it later. This IHO didn't just smell wrong, it reeked of panic, politics and procedural rot. The affected family was blindsided, no warning, no fairness, no decency. A young family was expecting a child. Now I know they've, congratulations on a young new child. Had their property value nuked overnight, possibly by 1 million or more without even the courtesy of a conversation. That is not heritage protection, it's cruelty disguised as governance. Nobody in this chamber would tolerate being treated like that. Put yourself in their shoes. The complaint has triggered the IHO is tainted by political connections. Let's not dance around it. A heritage complaint was made by a Peaceful Bayside candidate, sent to a Peaceful Bayside councillor, and conveniently aligned with Peaceful Bayside narrative about protecting character. Whether you like it or not, this is textbook perception of conflict of interest and perception matters. The Code of Conduct requires councillors to avoid not only actual conflicts, but perceived one. Yet, we have a chain of political mates setting off a process that destroys a family, a financial security. This is not heritage governance. That is factional interference and planning powers. There would have been a proper report beforehand, a legal framework understood, a transparent explanation and a process that respected the law. So instead, we got none of that. We got a reckless decision that didn't follow logic, didn't follow policy and didn't follow fairness. The IHO process was misuse of power. The IHO mechanism exists for genuine emergencies, not as a political toy. It meant to protect legitimately endangered heritage, not to be weaponised in factional firefights or used to virtue signal into the community. Council trampled every step of good governance. No evidence, no notice, no conflict of interest management, no procedural fairness, no strategic basis, no compassion. And that is why we are in this mess now, because of the process was rotten at the core. So let's call this what it is, a disgraceful example of how not to run a council. An IHO should be the last resort. Instead, it became the first weapon drawn. I'm nearly done, Mr. Mayor. Not even a minute. Councillors, tonight is not about heritage. It is about accountability for a failure so significant it has shaken public trust. The community have spoken. If we allow this process to stand unchallenged, then we declare to every resident that council can act without evidence, council can destroy your property value without warning, and council can let political alliances drive planning outcomes. That is unacceptable, that is indefensible, and that is exactly why the process behind this IHO must be condemned, overturned, and never repeated. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Colleagues, I know this is an emotionally charged incident, understandably so, but our role tonight is to make a decision based on process, public interest and evidence. The interim heritage order exists for one purpose only, to prevent irreversible loss while heritage significance is being properly assessed. It has been said that it's an emergency brake applied when demolition is imminent, and here demolition was not hypothetical. A complying demolition pathway was already set in motion. We have been reminded that the purchaser is entitled to expect clarity, and I accept that, but the due diligence is not defined solely by a 10.7 certificate. 10.7 is not proof that heritage risk doesn't exist, it only reflects what is formally listed at the time of issue. Heritage can still be pursued later if new information arises, as has happened here. A house of this era, highly intact, recognised in past studies, visually consistent with Federation period heritage, was always, as spruiked in real estate listings, if you look it up, the real estate was spruiking its heritage value, a property and it has potential heritage risk. A buyer should reasonably anticipate that heritage considerations may arise, particularly when the intent was rapid demolition. We now have two competing heritage reports, one prepared for commercial interest seeking demolition and one from our own heritage advisor indicating likely local significance. With respect, it would be reckless and contrary to public expectation for Council to privilege an unpeer-reviewed private report over an independent, transparent assessment process. This house has historical significance. First house in Villiers Street, predating later subdivision, aesthetic and architectural achievement, a rare Queen Anne Federation example in Rockdale, possibly linked stylistically to the Walmode era work scene in Haberfield. If that link is proven, we're not protecting an ordinary house, we're protecting a treasure. Has social value to it. There's a massive community outcry over this, written submissions, volumes of these. Even colleagues, the decision is not the final heritage verdict. It is the pause that allows the truth to be tested. Revoking the IHO tonight would mean demolition can proceed before the truth is known, and once gone, heritage cannot be resurrected. We only get one chance, and that's tonight. And I'd just like to just talk about the allegations against Peaceful Bayside here. I think these pecuniary interest allegations appear to be taken aim at undermining, legitimising of a lawful heritage process, not addressing general governance issues. There's no evidence of conflict, no basis to suggest councillors can't participate in the vote. It's democracy. So, looking forward, this case exposes a structural issue. Heritage should not be handled reactively. In 2026, I believe we must consider establishing a heritage advisory panel, so decisions like this are guided by constant expertise, transparency and a proactive framework that prevents confusion, like in this case, before they erupt. This is not anti-development, it's pro-good development, pro-process, pro-history, and it's responsible governance. I urge councillors to uphold the IHO and allow the full assessments around its proper course for our community, for our heritage and for generations who will judge whether we protected something irreplaceable or let it fall without due care. Thank you.
Councillor Strong, further Councillor Barlow.
I just want to make a few comments. I do have the Cass and Walker study. I do have the 148 is what this Villiers Street was listed as. In the procedure of the council before, they proceeded that if you wanted to take it off the list, the person could do it. But it was identified. It was identified by Cass and Walker. I spoke to a resident that doesn't live in Sydney anymore, who was one of the people on the Heritage Advisory Committee, who said straight away, yes, it was listed. The issue we have here is, I just can't fathom why someone would pull a house down like that, but that's my personal opinion. But we've got Banbury Cottage that was saved, and when you're on a heritage list, you get concessions that no one else could do. You could do some fantastic work with that property. Now, believe me, Banbury Cottage is now a childcare centre. We don't need any more of them. We had the Bexley Fire Station, and they ended up with all townhouses surrounding it in the corner of Forest Road and Queen Victoria Street. We had 27 Eden Street, the most magnificent house in Eden Street, and it's got the turrets and that's got all townhouses behind it. They were all granted that because they are on the heritage list. They couldn't have done it before that. And then we've got Dunmore Street, which did have an interim heritage order on it, but that was actually ended up coming from the government. But the only reason that came was they put in a DA to build this house that didn't fit in with the streetscape. And they ended up with 12 months later saying, okay, and they renovated the house, which had a ballroom in it. Now, and then at Fairview, there's two houses in Wollongong Road. One absolutely perfect, the other one was renovated by the health department. Everything was restored. They put extra, it's got disability people in it, but they ended up with all this surrounding it. So there's opportunities to make something really fantastic in that, and I do have concerns with the heritage report that was submitted, and I said it last time and I'll say it again. The original lounge fireplace had been replaced with an ugly brick mantelpiece, and the change is irreversible. I'm sorry, I had an ugly brick mantelpiece as well in my 1913 house, and it's replaced by a beautiful tiled fireplace and a mantel. So that I found that really disturbing that someone could put that into the report, and also it kept saying, oh, this is 60s, carpet, 60s wallpaper. That all can be removed. That's not part of what the heritage report should be saying. It should be listing further things. But my concern is that, in Sydney, 237 years ago, there wasn't a house here, and this house has been here now for nearly 120 years. Now, to me, they are worth saving. They are really something that needs to be saved. I feel sorry for the family, but I feel that the house they're buying, they could actually make an amazing job. There's another one off Bestick Street. Now, you get so many concessions to build something, and you have your 10-foot ceilings or whatever they are in metres. So you've got something that you can actually achieve, and apparently it's an unusual house because it's around a circle. It's not just a corridor down the middle. So to me, it's something that you need to look at. I feel that I feel the loss if it's pulled down. I don't know what you could build there that would fit in with the streetscape where the sandstone fence, everything's there. So as far as I'm concerned, it was on the heritage list. No, it's not on the heritage list now, but it was there, and it was identified by the qualified people.
1 minute, Councillor
Matt
Barlow.
Meredith and Casson Walker. So it definitely was identified and listed.
Yeah, Councillor Boudelow.
Thank you, Mayor. Just reading from some notes tonight. Firstly, I'd like to say that upholding this interim heritage order on this property sets a concerning precedent for our community and our council. Let's look at the facts. This property was purchased by Dr. Amin with no historical heritage restrictions in place. The Section 10.7 was clear. A member of the public and the Historical Society then approached some councillors with a proposal for an IHO, which was subsequently progressed. Whilst I initially supported this, I do want to say this was wrong, and I'm sorry. This is a debacle and a stain on our council. This family now faces significant financial consequences as a result of this order, as does the family of the previous owner. I want to be clear, this home is not owned by the Historical Society or by others in the community that spoke tonight. And whilst it may be appreciated by some because it is nice to look at, the property was purchased in good faith by Dr. Amin. It is not yours, it is his. Who are we to tell this man what to do with his own property? This man is not a developer. This is a man with a young family trying to build their dream home. We are talking about someone's life and future. If it has heritage elements, it likely would have been listed many years ago, and it obviously dropped off, maybe, who knows, but it wasn't. Again, what we have done here as a council raises serious issues regarding the certainty of property rights. On a separate note, I do want to acknowledge the comments circulating online implying that I and fellow councillors acted improperly in supporting the removal of the IHO. These are untrue and, in my view, defamatory. I have nothing to gain here except to remove this injustice from this family. I ask the council members to reflect on the implications for this young family. For those in the community, I ask you to remember those tonight that voted to hurt this family. Look around and remember their names. Ultimately, this is about fairness, families, and the consistent application of property rights in Bayside. I also have to note that potential conflicts of interest and the access members of the public have had to the inner workings of the council is disturbing and I believe requires further scrutiny. Let's do the right thing and remove this heritage order so this man can move into his dream home and enjoy his family. Thank you.
Councillor Douglas.
I tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to descend into hyperbolic lies, name-calling, personal attacks, bullying and scaremongering that has been going on in this chamber and from some members of this community for days on end. What I have done instead is read the submissions from everybody. There are 44 submissions from our community who want this heritage order to stick. We have legal advice.
Everyone is being listened to respectfully. I'm going to, again, just please stay silent.
We have legal advice from the council lawyers who say we are completely within the remit of what the interim heritage order is designed for. This is the mechanism, this is what it is designed for, this is what we are doing, we're completely within due process. And indeed, there are at least 5 other interim heritage orders right now in local neighbouring councils using this mechanism in exactly the same way. People in this chamber who have been against any heritage protection previously are the ones I believe being hypocritical, pretending now to care about ones who they didn't care about before when there were community calls for heritage protection. And indeed, it is them and their track record that have got these particular community members into a pickle. Shifting the blame to those who care about heritage is absconding responsibility for previous council failures of not listening to communities' concerns about heritage protection. So, what does the wider community have to say? Jeff Powys, president of the Cogra Bay Progress Association, said, importantly, the interim listing does not prevent development. It simply ensures that any future development is informed, transparent, based on a proper evaluation by the Heritage Office. The listing is temporary. Once the assessment is complete, the relevant authorities can determine whether full heritage listing is appropriate. Another member of the community said Meredith Walker, who reviewed this house in 1991 and listed it on the council's register for heritage to be submitted for listing. Meredith Walker is the author of the Burra Charter, which informs all heritage matters in New South Wales. She is the expert and she knew that this house was significant. This house is the only example of Queen Anne Federation residential house in Rockdale and possibly all the west side of the local government area. Rosie Awad said, this property is not merely an old house, it is one of the finest and most intact examples of Queen Anne Federation homes and possesses outstanding heritage significance at locally and arguably state level. She says she's lived across from this home her whole life and now as a young homeowner raising a family in this area, she implores us, she says, I implore you to consider its value to our community. The house sits proudly on its elevated site, commanding panoramic views and contributing to an irreplaceable sense of grandeur and historical continuity to the streetscape. To walk past it is to be transported back to an era when craftsmanship, proportion and beauty were paramount. Its presence elevates the entire neighbourhood. To take this away from the next generation is to rob them of a history and beauty that cannot be replaced. Emma Hulse said, these properties are an important part of our community's character and history, and their preservation matters. I urge you to support the Council's interim heritage motion on the heritage order for this home in our LGA. Homes can be renovated tastefully, respecting their original heritage while meeting modern living needs. The financial interests of one owner, she says, one individual should never outweigh the greater good for the community, ever. Elizabeth Foley said this is a beautiful example of Federation architecture. There are very few of these houses still standing in Rockdale. The council over the years has allowed many beautiful homes to be demolished to make way for concrete boxes, allowing developers to rake in money at the cost of the area's heritage. At present, she says, within a few minutes' walk from 116 Villiers, there's 30 Clarence Road, 60 Herbert Street and 25 Arlington Street, all under demolition. And there is another duplex, she says, under construction in Frederick Street. Residents constantly feel they are living on a building site. Dust and noise are everyday living as our suburb is being obliterated, she said. Pamela Kotaris said the building and its position on a corner surely gives it landmark qualities and it is a stunning example of its style. The interiors are intact, which is rare in Sydney. Douglas. And I could go on. What is clear from reading all of these submissions is that our community values heritage and we have failed our community. We need to get this right and we need to do this today.
Councillors, any further discussion? Councillor Driscoll, I think you're first.
I actually didn't realise that I could actually, we have the power at council to make or break people. When I was elected a year ago, I stood for the rights of the individual. And those are the rights that I'm going to uphold today. Dr. Ali and his family don't have a collective voice. They have one voice and they're relying on us to be the collective voice. Their right as individuals should be upheld. These are the type of people we actually want living in this electorate. Mr. Mayor, you would know, you are one of those, you had a child very recently. These are the type of people we want to keep. But it's going to be even harder and harder as property prices go up. And even harder if this goes through, because most people won't want to live in this area because of the uncertainty that we are about to, if this passes, is created amongst potential buyers. Now, I'm also talking for the majority of the ratepayers out there that will also have to foot the bill of this mistake. This is going to be a massive mistake, don't get me wrong, and the ratepayers are the ones that are also going to have to pay for this mistake. I'm not against heritage, but I want everyone to actually spare a thought. Right now, if you were the person that was about to lose a substantial amount of life savings, how would you feel? We actually can make and break people here. I didn't realise it until this happened, and I'm not going to stand by and let this go ahead. Is this, I question, a matter of tall poppy syndrome? Is it? I hope it's not. So everybody here really needs to think about the fact that they could be in this situation where there is absolute government overreach and ability to actually cripple a young family. Do you know how hard it is to buy in this area? I want to congratulate this family, but I also beseech others to actually put yourself in these people's shoes and empathise that they're about to lose a lot of money. And you wouldn't want it on yourself, and you wouldn't want it on your children either. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And thank you to everyone who's spoken, including all of the people who've come tonight. I know you've all spoken with sincerity. I want to acknowledge that. There is a lot of hurt in the room and a lot of passion. And I think that is one of the best things that's come out of this awful situation, that actually people have expressed what they care about. I too read the 44 submissions or so from people who weren't all here tonight. Some people, thank you very much to people who came. But, you know, there were many submissions. And so what this clearly indicates is that there is more work to be done in this area by council, a lot more work to be done. It's been a neglected area for some time. And it indicates that we have a responsibility to weigh things up with all the information we can. And it is really on that basis that I think we need to make a decision. We are not even halfway through, probably 3/4 of the way through now, a process, really. In the last meeting, you know, I spoke in order to speed up this process, and I thank the General Manager for sort of indicating that it would be possible to speed it up. Speed it up so that we will actually get an independent report in January. That's really a month away. I, for one, would like to have the benefit of that independent report, because this is a huge decision. It's a decision which will weigh on us now for the current people who live in Brockdale and beyond for the whole of Bayside, and it's a decision which will weigh on many generations to come. So I would like to have the benefit of expert opinion. And I think that's what this is about. That's what this interim heritage order is about. I should say, you know, since I was specifically mentioned earlier with regard to perhaps misspeaking, that I should say in the last meeting that, you know, I have now, you know, like I have it up on my screen, a report prepared by Meredith Walker and Terry Cass for the Rockdale Municipal Council in 1991, which was very kindly appended to one of those 44 submissions as a PDF hyperlink. It was a hyperlink in their report. In other words, it's publicly available in a library. Basically, anyone can get a copy of this Cass and Walker study, and in it, indeed, 116 Villiers Street is listed as number 148. It's one of, I think, I might have miscounted, but I think it's about 143 homes which were listed in that report. I think there were about 68 which were listed as housing, including Villiers. Another 39 were listed as villas and 36 as worker housing. So it's not that many houses. It's not that many homes, but it's about, maybe my maths serve me wrong, but give or take 143. So it's one of actually not too many homes which were listed in the Cass and Walker study 1991, which is publicly available. Now, I grant, you know, many people wouldn't have known it was publicly available, but, you know, it is publicly available. So I just want to put that as facts, you know, on the table. This is publicly available information, and I hope that we will soon, as in January, get a full report, heritage report. That is all we are determining through this process, is whether or not this building does in fact warrant heritage listing. If it doesn't, then, well, fantastic. That is obviously the view of you know, Associate Professor Amin and others. He can do whatever he would like on it. If it does come back as being as warranting heritage listing, well then, you know, it will be possible for him or any other owner to do something which is consistent with heritage, you know, with a heritage listing for a if it is eventually heritage listed by council. So that's where we're up to. I think we're talking about, you know, a month. That's all that we are talking about, is a month before a decision can be made about this. I do not myself think that that warrants having a rescission order at this point.
Councillor Kassim.
Can I just say about the month?
No, sorry, you've spoken already, Councillor Disco. Any further speakers? Councillor Saravinovsky.
I'd like to ask some questions because we're looking forward, we're not looking backwards. Question through the chair to the GM. What were the steps taken to the IHO being placed?
Manager.
Through the chair, the assessment of the initial preliminary assessment of heritage value was undertaken by our own internal heritage officer. That was brought to the attention of the relevant manager, director, and ultimately to myself. Notwithstanding some of the things that people might be thinking or saying, it was drawn to my attention within 24 hours of the CDC being granted. The request from internally from staff was that an interim order be placed on the property to allow for a proper heritage assessment to be undertaken. You all will be aware that I sent a message to each of you because I wanted to gauge the councillors' support or not for that. After doing that, the interim heritage order was sent into Parliamentary Council, and it was agreed that it had merit to put it on for a maximum of 6 months while a proper full heritage assessment was undertaken. And that's what we discussed at the last meeting, with an understanding that we would bring that back as quickly as we possibly could.
Thank you for answering that. So now my follow-up question is, when you asked for support, was there a majority?
General Manager.
Yes, at that time there was a majority of councillors based on the information available to them at that time.
Can I then ask a follow-up question? Who were the support?
I don't think that's appropriate at this point in time. I think that that's the question, like the councillors wrote directly to me. I would want to speak to the councillors whether they're happy for me to release that information.
Okay, that's all good.
Councillors, any further discussion? Right of reply, Councillor Bezic.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just going back to some of the comments the other councillors have made. So, Councillor Strong said that the property predated the subdivision, but actually was part of the subdivision and amalgamated a few blocks of the subdivision. For Councillor Barlow saying that they can renovate the property, yeah, they can, but they could have purchased it for substantially less if it had the IHO in place before they bought it. For Councillor Douglas, you know, Bayside is made up of 150,000 residents. 44 submissions don't necessarily represent the community. In terms of the neighbouring councils that have IHOs under process at the moment, none of those were recently sold and the IHO placed after that. I do agree we have failed the community. In this case, we failed the buyer and the seller by imposing the IHO. And also, I mean, we've had, you know, being on council for 5 years, we've had ample opportunity to pursue heritage, and the council itself had 35 years to pursue heritage listing of this item. For Councillor Kasim, the buyer and the seller don't have 1 month to wait, and if they do, if it does eventually result in a permanent heritage listing, they still face financial burden and ruin. And also the Bayside Heritage Act in 2019 didn't list this as a relevant property at the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bezic. Assume we're calling division. Division's been called. Councillor Curry. To rescind the motion. Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Bezic. Councillor Boudeleau. Councillor Strong. Councillor Kasim. Councillor Brederhoft. Councillor Sarabanovsky.
Against.
Councillor Naji. Councillor Dusku. Councillor Barlow. Councillor Poulos. Councillor Douglas. And myself, I continue to abstain. I declare the motion lost. Thank you. I understand this is a very contentious issue for the community. And as Councillor Kasim noted, the council will endeavour to complete a heritage report as soon as practicable. Councillors, we move to item CWA 25.057. Move Councillor Strong.
Thank you,
Do we have a
Mr. Mayor.
seconder?
Oh, seconder. So,
seconded, Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Strong.
I recognise the increased demand for fields across Bayside, but we must base future decisions on the strongest evidence available, not just cost, but long-term impact. We've got to consider environmental and people's health. A recent Federate Senate inquiry into PFAS and synthetic turf has introduced new information that we cannot ignore. For some time, the focus has been on the rubber crumb infill, but new evidence now indicates PFAS is also present in the plastic blades themselves. These forever chemicals persist in soils, waterways and human bodies, raising question not only about playing surfaces, but end-of-life disposal, heat retention and soil contamination over time. Our role is not to simply build fields quickly, it's to build them responsibly, informed by the emerging science. So I've sent an amendment to governance that's been noted. The amendment doesn't halt progress, it simply ensures that when staff return with costings and surface options, they also include the PFAS findings, life cycle impacts and natural hybrid alternative for comparison. It gives us clarity before committing to infrastructure that will shape our recreational landscapes for decades. If we're serious about sustainability, transparency and evidence-based decision-making, then this is good governance. So I commend these amendments to Council, number 5 and 6 there.
You, Councillor Strong. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Douglas.
Would you? Okay. I just want to say how much I appreciate these amendments, especially considering the studies into PFAS around Kaima, Cooks River, along our beaches up to Brighton Sands. There's a lot of concern from our communities about whether it's already safe to swim there, to have dogs there, especially to fish there. So I think we need to do everything we can to make sure that we as a council are not contributing more to those forever chemicals. So I thank you for this amendment.
Councillors, any further discussion? Councillor Bigelow.
Just quickly, obviously we won't oppose this amendment, but what I would say is obviously to thank Councillor Curry for putting forward the amendment through the committee to allow us to look at all-weather fields and other options for Lestrange and Bexley. I think the community and the football club have spoken well and strongly that they need an option that works. I don't think they're particularly biased to any option. We all would love Old Trafford at Lestrange Park and, natural turf there. But the reality is, and the costs of doing that, I think, would be quite high. But I just obviously commend this to the council. Let's get the report. Let's make a decision next year and get some kids playing football again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bigelow. Any further discussion? Councillor
Sorry,
Morrissey.
I know that I second this motion, but I hadn't seen the amendments. Firstly, we can't, as a council, note the findings of a inquiry that we're not privy to.
The link's in the email.
What email?
That I sent to all councillors.
I've been working until 6:30 today, so I haven't read it.
I emailed these amendments and there's a link.
Sorry, can we, no argument across the chamber, please.
So we can't note. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It may well exist, but I'm not privy to it. And there's probably 13 or 14 other councillors sitting across from me who haven't actually read a federal Senate inquiry into PFAS. I know what PFAS is, and I'm familiar with it, and it's topical. So I'm actually supportive of understanding more about PFAS. But we can't, as a council of 15 people, say, "Oh, we note the findings of this report," when we haven't actually seen it. So, Councillor Strong.
Just look at the link and it'll be there.
Councillor, the report, this business paper was published last Friday. I have not had a chance to read a federal Senate inquiry into PFAS since that time.
Only recently come up.
Okay, so are you saying that through the chair, can we ask Councillor Strong to, firstly, there's a few things we have to get right with this one. I'm happy to, are you willing to remove that? Because otherwise it's a foreshadowed motion, it's changing the motion.
Oh no, the mover and seconder of the motion can add or change the amendment, the motion, however they wish.
Could I make a suggestion?
So if Councillor Strong...
I think what you're saying is you would not second the motion.
Yeah, if it's going to stay like that, I'm going to withdraw it, and then I will put up a foreshadowed motion that the original committee recommendation is taken.
I would agree with that.
Councillor Douglas.
Could I make a suggestion that instead of that council note the findings of the recent federal Senate inquiry into PFAS, the council be presented the findings into the recent Senate inquiry into PFAS?
So I assume that's a publicly available document. So I think it's not, if it's to present council with the findings, I think we can all go and read it ourselves, I would say.
Respectfully, I think this is what we have reports for at committee, is to present the evidence on all sides that we need to consider. I would personally really like it if we got some officers' recommendations based on the best practice knowledge that's out there.
Councillor Morrissey.
Mr Mayor, I'll just withdraw my seconding of this motion, please.
Do we have a seconder for the motion before we continue? Councillor Douglas.
Thank you. And I'll have a foreshadowed motion that the original committee recommendation stand. And if I can have a seconder for that, please.
Seconded, Councillor Naji.
So the original commission, I think that's just 1 to 4 is the original as stands. So the foreshadowed is 1 to 4 without 5 and 6. Thank you.
Any further discussion, councillors? All right. Are you sure you don't want to remove that part of your motion, councillor Strong? Well, I think the point councillor Morrissey is making, in fairness, is that he's happy to support the actual substantive part of your motion other than noting the report. No, he's saying he'll, correct me if I'm wrong, councillor Morrissey, but he's happy that staff report back on potential health, environment and life cycle implications for Bayside prior to locking in surface selection for future sports fields upgrades, which is asking staff to do work in future reports, which I would say they largely already do, because we report on all risks that staff identify as significant, and that item 6, you're not happy with 6 either.
That's a game changer then. Yeah. Just go to 5, yeah?
Well, I think it's the second half of 5.
Because they're already.
It's up to you, councillor Strong, but councillor Morrissey is saying he would only support keeping effectively the second half of 5. That staff, starting with the word "that" after the semicolon, staff report back on potential.
So we're keeping 5, but not 6.
No, we're not keeping. We're keeping half of 5. So other way around.
Sorry.
He's saying that when these things are considered in future, that he's happy to support what you're saying about staff reporting back on health and life cycle implications.
But not specifically PFAS.
Well, in fairness, your motion doesn't actually say that.
Including PFAS? Just the potential health environment, including the PFAS scare?
Well, I don't think we should identify individual risks, to be honest. I think it emphasises one risk over another.
Motion to be put, please.
Thank you, councillor Dusko. So are you, just to be clear, councillor Strong, are you happy for that to be put with the crossed out bits? Yep. All right. All in favour? All those against? Declare that carried and declare the meeting closed at 9:00. Oh, sorry. Are there any questions? Are there no questions on notice in an extraordinary meeting? Declare the meeting closed at 9:08 p.m. Thank you.